India's influencer economy is booming, but along with the big money and massive reach come big questions. What happens when authenticity clashes with accountability? When being real online risks real reputational damage? As brands tighten contracts with morality clauses, are they protecting their image or controlling creators? Is outrage being incentivized by algos? And who decides what's moral in the age of viral content? On Media Dialogues with Storyboard18, we unpack the ethics, contracts, and consequences shaping the creator economy. Joining us, advocate Siddharth Chandrashekhar, Rohit Agarwal of Alpha Zigis, and Storyboard's very own Imran Fazal as we debate the fine balance between freedom and responsibility, virality and values. Hello and welcome to Storyboard18. Gentlemen, it's great to have you all with me today. And I want to immediately just zoom out and ask the one big question here, which is what are morality clauses? So that I'll come to you first. Given you are an authority in this space, give us an idea. Explain to us what a standard morality clause is.
Well, unfortunately, a standard morality clause is fairly vague. It would say something along the lines of the contractee is not permitted to behave in a manner which would be detrimental to the contractor, to the party they're signing the contract with. It does not specify a timeline. It does not specify what kind of behaviors. It does not specify whether this behavior would be pursuant to signing the contract or prior in time. So say, for example, someone has a minor misdemeanor. They were involved in a drunken brawl, say 3 months back, 6 months back. That content, now in the age of virality, that piece of video surfaces on the internet suddenly after they've signed the contract. Now, that could also be construed as triggering the morality clause.
We'll get to maybe that aspect of it in terms of the extent of these clauses, but break it down a little bit for me and give it to me in the sense of like an influencer and a creator. Today, as a creator, if I go to a brand, what are they serving up to me in that contract, in that morality clause? Can you define that a little bit more for us? Explain it, break it down.
All right. So basically what the brand is telling the influencer is that you cannot do anything which would be detrimental to our brand value. We are paying you an amount to promote our brand. Now, tomorrow, if there is any kind of public discontent or anyone raises some kind of red flag saying, okay, hey, brand XYZ, your influencer behaved in this manner, and this is not something which goes with your brand ethos. So we are not comfortable with that. Now, morality is very vague because it's very subjective. It differs from culture to culture, from country to country, from region to region. And from more than that, it differs from time to time. What is considered moral today may have not been considered moral even 20 years back in India or in other countries, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. Rohit, of course, you're on the front lines of everything that's happening in the ecosystem, given that you work with talent, you manage talent. When you're looking at these contracts and you're seeing the emergence of these hard to understand paragraphs in contracts, and within that, of course, morality clauses. When did it start? Give us a sense of, how it became such a critical aspect of these contracts. And after that, also tell me a little bit about, the talent view on it, your view on it.
Right. So I would say the way it started was when this term called as cancel culture came into place. So there is this new term which the internet has been using in the past 3-4 years, which says that you are cancelled, which means that you're off the public domain now. It's because you did certain actions or you did something that didn't fit well with us. So ever since this thought of cancel culture has come in, is when brands have started putting it as a morality clause in their piece of document, which Siddharth rightly pointed out that it's quite vague, right? Because what was acceptable a couple of years ago might not be acceptable now, and vice versa. It kind of changes with different demographics, like what is acceptable to one demographic might not be acceptable to another demographic. So how this sort of boils down to an influencer is, see, an influencer is based essentially on two pillars. One is relatability and the other is trust. I will relate with an influencer is why I would consume the content of the influencer. You take away that relatability, I probably don't care about them. The second aspect being trust. I trust the piece of information they are giving me. I trust them with my time, right? Now, what an influencer always expects from a brand is, let us take care of the trust element, that let's not miscommunicate or misinform to a customer. But the relatability angle, which is my creativity as an influencer, let me have that. Let me sort of lead it. Let me, like not put red tapes around that. The morality clause at this point, considering, recent consequences that have happened, with certain internet IPs that have gone viral, the morality clause now is that your creativity also needs to come with red tapes, right? Ideally, the red tapes should have been, don't do anything illegal on stream, or don't miscommunicate any facts in a wrong manner, or fully disclose your sources. Like these are the right ways to guide your customer, to guide your audience. But now the vagueness is to the point where brand is saying that if you say or do anything that affects or disturbs the sentiments of your audience, we will take legal action without looking left, right, and center. So that's where the creator is facing a lot of challenge.
So, and we were discussing this earlier as well. Currently, the way it stands, it's very one-sided. I don't know if you want to bring up the examples, Rohit, that you shared with me when we were talking earlier on some of the infringements that brands see as infringements to the contract and clauses, which perhaps give us a sense about how that vagueness is open to so much interpretation.
Right.
Can you share a few examples?
Absolutely. So, I deal very closely with live streamers, people who create content not as an edited piece, but rather they go live on platforms like YouTube and Instagram, and they create like 2 hours of sort of unfiltered content there, right? Now, we had a certain brand collaboration in place with an influencer. The influencer simply went on stream and he was wearing a t-shirt that was green in color, right? Now, there was no challenge from the brand, no challenge from anyone, but there was a certain segment of the audience that interpreted this in a very different manner. And they started spamming the comments saying that, hey, you're anti-national, you're this, you're that, and all of that starts happening, right? Now, the brand is coming to us saying that, hey, I'm having negative sentiments on my sponsored stream, which is, sort of a waste of my money. I want to terminate the contract. I want this thing to end. Now, this is where the question of where do we draw the boundary of morality in a contract comes in. Because very technically speaking, the influencer in question over here did not speak anything wrongly, did not do anything wrongly. It was just an interpretation of a certain segment of the audience that did not sit well with them. Does that give the right to a brand to terminate a contract without having any further discussions on what kind of remedy can we do for this? How do we address the audience? And that is where one thing that I strongly feel should come into picture is a remedy period. That okay, things might go wrong and we never know what could go wrong. Let's have like a 48-hour to 72-hour remedy period in which we are coming up with actions, we are coming up with, let's say whether it's a public apology, whether it's a public clarification, or whether it's just being media silent for that matter. But letting that come into picture rather than just jumping into the fact that, hey, we are terminating, everything that's in place. Yeah.
Delshad, I just wanted to also point here that crores and thousands of crores are being spent by brands here. Siddharth, I also want to understand, in this age of deepfake and AI, what if an influencer gets embroiled into a controversy and becomes a victim of deepfake and AI? Do you think this also leads to a violation of morality clause? what happens when the influencer in which a brand is in a contract and morality clause comes into effect? Does that also lead to violation? How do you react to it then?
In the sense, what you're trying to check is whether a deep fake, where the influencer has absolutely no control, has gone viral. Now, the first thing the influencer would need to do over there is take cognitive steps, take action in the sense first informing the police or any kind of statutory authority. Then secondly, it would be ideal for them to make a public statement disassociating them from this, from the time that it's brought to their notice. Because AI deepfakes are not within their realm of control, right? But suppose the influencer in over here, the influencer that we're dealing with, has no control over it, but nevertheless, he fails to take any cognizance, fails to take any action, and just says, okay, you know what, let it slide. Now, if that deepfake makes a irresponsible statement or makes a statement which crosses, forget lines of morality, crosses the line of legality, like say that deepfake is holding two AK-47 rifles and says, hey, everyone should have a gun when they go out, which is probably contrary to what this influencer otherwise would be, or say a peace-loving individual. Now, merely because this was a deep fake does not mean that they can just wipe their hands off that. They should ideally take action over here, else they could be held liable. Not saying it's a hard and fast rule that they will be held liable, but they certainly should take steps. So that tomorrow, if a controversy does arise where this has certain legal ramifications and implications, then no one is going to point out and say, okay, you know what, agreed that this was a deep fake, but how do we know that you weren't promoting it? Or what did you do? What steps did you take to stop it?
Here again is a point that, again, is a very gray area, right? Putting all the onus, of course, on creators, which is fair in a situation like this. But let me dial back to, the extent of these clauses, whether it is duration, whether it is, the actual content aspect of it, and how much of that is open to misuse by brands or the creators themselves as well. What are the battles there, Siddharth? What can possibly be done to make these clauses far more fair for both the brand as well as creators?
One thing is that most brands will always, when they come to a creator with a contract, they will say, okay, this is our contract, this is a standard contract, and please sign it. So one thing creators often forget is that they have a right to say, okay, I'm not comfortable with this clause, I would like this change, I would like that changed. But most often than not, they just sign it for the sake of signing it. Sometimes it's their agent, or sometimes it's their agency, or in any case, they just decide that, this is a small part of what I do. Like there was a show recently which had gone viral. And one of the lines over there, which the main protagonist said is, I don't read contracts. Something along the lines of, I don't read contracts, I just sign them. And that set off alarm in most of the lawyers who deal with media contracts and who are in the media space, because but of course it was also done in a very tongue-in-cheek manner to bring to attention, very subtly of course, the fact that you need to go through what you're signing. And there's every possibility that you could at least have dialogue prior to signing the contract, because once you've signed a contract, whether it's got a morality clause, whether the morality clause is unilateral or otherwise, once you've signed it, you are assumed to have fully read and fully understood what you're getting into. So it's very important to ensure that there is a balance, that this morality is not just one-sided, that the onus is not just on the influencer, but also on the brand as well.
And that was, Rohit, you were talking about that earlier, right? Yes. Where we only speak of the morality clause as something imposed on the creator. But what about the brand?
Right.
Give me your take on that.
So more often or not, see, a brand comes with a certain objective to a creator. get us engagement. That's what we are coming to you for. Now, how do you get engagement in the modern world? You have to fight battles in terms of perfecting the algorithm, by, like the way you're putting your content together. So there are certain lines that the brand expects you to cross in order to reach those engagement numbers. To define a few, for example, the ASCII code basically states that every influencer needs to properly disclose a brand association through paid partnership tags, paid ad tags, sponsored tags. It should be right in front at all times that, okay, this is a sponsored piece of content. Uh, in fact, a report which actually said that 1 in every 5 influencer collaborations has been violating this particular tag for the longest time. And more often or not, it's not the creator who is violating this. It's the brand that is expecting the creator to violate this because it affects engagement. It affects reach. The moment you as a consumer see that, okay, this is a branded collaboration, the drop-off rate goes much, much higher versus you not seeing that, right? So that's sort of a red tape that the brand is expecting you to cross. Another one being many brands would give you a certain script to read out, saying that, hey, this is our product, highlight these particular pointers about our product. Okay. If I, as an influencer, have some conflicting thoughts about, hey, maybe there are some things not right about this product, can I address it to my audience? The brand is usually like, hey, we are paying you money, just say what we are asking you to do, right? So the question becomes that where does morality go over here? In case number one, am I not, like misguiding my audience by not fully disclosing to them this is a paid partnership? I'm getting paid to, do this particular piece of content. And number two, when I'm talking about a certain product or a brand, and if you're putting some red tapes around me that only speak this, do not speak that, again, is that not miscommunication? Is that not misguiding? And does that not...
Misinformation, does that amount to misinformation?
Uh, Incomplete information, according to me, is misinformation. Because if I take a very basic example of tech, if I am supposed to talk about, let's say, a mobile device, talking about great camera, this, that, this, that. This device overheats, but I'm not allowed to speak that it overheats. Okay. My audience will go buy it because I said a lot of beautiful things about it. The next day, if I'm receiving comments saying that, hey, I bought this, but it's overheating, is my product faulty or so on, where is the morality over here? Because you were asked not to highlight the overheating issue, right? So for me, at least I feel, and what even a lot of creators feel is, incomplete information is as good as misinformation that you're addressing to your audience. So all of this essentially leads to the fact that if there are morality clauses that a brand would make you sign, saying that, hey, all the liability comes on you if things go wrong, there should be a reverse morality that should exist that, hey, if you are asking me to be unethical in any way, whether not following ASCII guidelines, whether not disclosing what your product or brand stands for, then I should be able to walk away from this association, or I should be able to report you to the right authorities, whether it's ASCII, whether it's consumer protection, whosoever it is, because that's the only way this becomes a fair exchange. And then it's no longer that you have, like brands would even tell you that we would put defamation cases on you if you were to speak anything negative, right? But the Consumer Protection Act clearly states that if it is fact-based, if whatever you're saying is carried on by a fact, it's not defamation, right? But brands will try to oppress you in that way that this is your script, get viral, do whatever you have to. But if you do anything wrong, this thing is done with and you get into legal trouble.
Is that realistically possible, Siddharth? Imran, after that, I'll let you get in with your question as well. Is it realistically possible to have this kind of reverse expectation of morality and whatever that entails then within an industry or a framework or whatever the case may be? Is it realistically possible, or is it always that the brand has the upper hand?
So I think the question here isn't whether it's realistically possible, but whether it's legally possible. And the answer to that has got to be a resounding yes. Because the whole point of entering into a contract is that both parties get an equal opportunity to see what they're getting into and to tweak, so as to speak, the clauses, what you're dealing with. And certainly it must be absolutely balanced over here, because otherwise what's happening, but most often than not, but like you had said, is it realistically possible? Realistically, at present, 90% of the time, it does not happen. Because either there's pressure from the brand, and they're saying, okay, you know what, we're paying you X amount of money, we're paying you this kind of money, you've not seen in any of your contracts so far. Or they're saying, okay, you know what, if you don't take it, we've got 10 other people who'll line up for this. Or most often than not, the most common answer they will give you is, this is standard, this has come from legal, this is how it works. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. We are paying you money. Just do what we say.
It's as simple as that. Imran, you wanted to ask something.
Yeah. So when you talk about brands demanding engagement, and there are also multiple reports which cite that algorithms which are mainly involved, I mean, they get traction when there is fake news, or be it obscenity or deepfake. I want to understand, Siddharth, how do you think platforms should get involved into this, especially when there are safe harbor provisions in the IT guidelines and the rules? So do you think the onus should be put more on the social media platforms, wherein such content should be either labeled or being pulled down if there is such kind of controversy?
Absolutely, absolutely. The platforms must be held responsible first and prior before anyone else, because it's basically, what are they doing? They are a platform over here, basis which the influencer has their following, basis which the brand is able to use to leverage that influencer and to make their brand or their product, their service go viral. So certainly the first gate, the first threshold is always the platform. So it should be the platform. In fact, I would go so far as to saying that platform should have a response time of not more than 12 to 24 hours, nothing more than that. Nothing more than that should be permitted, because the whole concept, their whole package, what they do is basis that platform. It's to promote their content. If they're permitting content to go viral, certainly they should also have checks and balances to ensure that the content which is going viral goes by certain norms and does not offend morality.
Rohit, your take on that? The onus on platforms within, of course, what we are discussing today, which is contractual obligations, the morality clause, the fairness of that for creators and brands. It goes both ways. So where does the platform come in? What is this, this battle about really?
Right. So, see, I believe that all social platforms now, they gratify controversies, right? If you were to open your explore section right now, anyone in this room, if they were to open the explore section, they are kind of playing on the seven sins, right? Whether it's guilt, whether it's greed, whether it's, one of the sins that they're paying on, right? Cute dog photos, obscene photos, could be any of that. Now, if a platform is gratifying controversies or, gratifying these seven sins, the brands are going to ask a creator that, hey, if I am paying you X amount of money, I'm expecting Y amount of engagement, hack the algorithm, do whatever you have to do in order to show up, right? And the brands are also expecting you to not just show up in your followers' feed, but also, sort of become bigger, more viral. So that's when a creator has to start deconstructing the platform to understand, okay, what is it that I can do in terms of my 3-second hook, in terms of something I say, something I do that, allows me to get that momentum, right? Now, when this happens, more often or not, a brand is seeing the script or the output that is going out, right? There is rarely a case where a brand is not seeing what is going out there before it goes live, correct? They will, in most likelihood, be like, okay, fine, if you trust in this, go ahead and do it. You put it out. There are certain people that take it well. There are certain people who don't take it well. If the people who don't take it well, again, the brand will put in their contract in place that, hey, this was your call, you took it wrong, we are stepping out from here, right? So the whole sort of, baseline to this whole argument becomes, as long as platforms keep gratifying controversies and the sins, everyone in the ecosystem will be forced to work in that direction in order to maintain the engagement, in order to maintain the momentum that initially the brand had expected. So it's as simple as that, if a certain platform is, pushing a certain type of content, if I go against the wave, my brand is definitely going to question that, hey, I paid you X amount of money. You usually get Y amount of engagement, but now your engagement is like 10% of that. I won't pay you, right? So again, you're stuck in that loop where brand is like, you did not meet my goals and criteria. So platforms do end up becoming, sort of the, the baseline to this whole argument that if they are going to keep gratifying controversies, everyone in the ecosystem is forced to, sort of go down that route. Yep.
It's a strange, vicious cycle, so to speak, for a lot of people. And I mean, at the end of the day, it is that, right? You are basically rewarding outrage, controversies, all of that. At the end of the day, people go to creators and influencers, like you mentioned, for that relatability factor, for authenticity, for creativity. With these clauses, how do you see them impacting that authenticity and creativity going forward? Will it become, of course, it's going to become a huge bone of contention, but how do you see that playing out? Do you see authenticity being completely stifled going forward? It may be good or bad according to whoever's book you want to subscribe to. But how do you see that battle between authenticity and all of these, contractual obligations?
See, the battle from here on, we were talking the other day about how, for a brand, they have an entire legal structure in place to put their piece of paper together, right? And like Siddharth pointed out, a brand would be like, hey, this is what we got from our legal team. This is what we usually follow. Just go ahead and sign it, right? Number one becomes education on the creator's side to try to make them understand how to read a contract. Okay, there are a lot of clauses. So in fact, like not until a very while ago, the only three things that a creator would look at in a contract is the termination clause, the deliverables, and the third thing. So the deliverables, the termination clause, and if anything goes wrong, then what am I expected to do, right? They would just look at these three clauses and they'll be like, okay, fine, I'm done. Nothing else to look at. Increasingly now, like the positive side of AI or positive side of GPTs of the world comes in, that, creators have started sort of, consulting with GPT platforms and all to understand, okay, help me understand this piece of document. Where could I go wrong? What is happening? Ever since the recent controversies, creators have started asking their agencies that please go through this properly. It's okay for me to drop the brand, but I do not want to fall into trouble, right? So that education aspect from a creator angle has started becoming important. Creators maybe should start giving a pushback to certain brands that, hey, what you have given, it's really not aligning with us. We can't make this happen, right? A couple of big faces, a couple of influential figures start doing that, we might start seeing more regulations coming in. And number three, the whole ASCII angle that I was talking about, let that enforcement come in more strongly, right? Let ASCII ask brands and creators who was the one who said do not put sufficient disclaimers on your content, right? Penalize them. Let these disclaimers start coming out more openly. Then liability starts becoming more obvious that, okay, who is liable for what has gone out there, right? Because right now the liability is too much on the creator. So education of the creators, them doing a little pushback, and regulatory authorities asking the right questions would kind of shift the tide, according to me.
Fantastic point there on liability, Siddharth. Get in on that from the legal perspective. Education, of course, is critical on both sides. Liability, asking the right questions, how important will that be going forward?
Going forward, seeing as though how the dialogue has already started, it's only going to get more and more important because till right now, the influencers, for them, their market is their followers. But as far as the brand is concerned, they're the smaller fish, you know. So they are just being told, okay, you will be liable for X, Y, and Z. That's it. We are paying you money. Nothing to the extent of it being reciprocal, whereby our responsibilities are such and such, or we have represented the reason. Now, the thing is that creators also align with brands, not just because they're being remunerated economically, but also because a brand aligns with their vision
And values.
and values as well. So now creators also believe that a brand is something which it's not just them promoting the brand, but the brand also being something close to home with them. So now what happens when the brand betrays their own values, which they have represented to the creator and the world at large? So there should certainly be some pushback to that extent where the playing field is leveled out.
I don't know if you can share any cases of just to make your point. But have there been any cases where you've seen that?
There have been quite a few cases, but I'm not going to take any names. But where, for example, one brand represented that they were cruelty-free and that the products they made were purely vegan. And then the creator and a bunch of the other creators they had taken on found out that they were actually testing these on animals. And they were employing labor and not paying the labor in accordance with what was legally stipulated. But of course, these creators being, like I said, the smaller fish, they had no way to say, okay, you know what, we want to exit because of this. So they just had to basically wait it out till their contract expired and slowly distance themselves from the brand.
But of course, there would be no call out of the brand.
Correct.
Because that would amount to what? Defamation?
Defamation.
Imran, anything you want to sort of pick on what Rohit and Siddharth have said?
Right. So, Delshad, if you look into this whole morality clause part, earlier global brand ambassadors or sports personalities, Bollywood celebrities, Hollywood celebrities were signing these morality clauses, but the lines have now blurred here, right? I want to understand, Siddharth, with influencer living in tier 3, tier 4 cities, with brands trying to reach out to these audiences via tier 3, tier 4 influencers, how do you expect them to comply to these morality clauses or these contracts that these brands try to enforce on them? Because obviously there will be compliance issues with them as well.
Correct. So the thing is, we need to understand that the brands are mostly, they had initially targeted the tier 1, tier 2 cities, but they've realized that tier 3, tier 4 is a much larger market over there. But what they've also failed to understand is tier 3, tier 4 cities are a lot more sensitive. They have a different set of values over there. So even the influencers who come from these areas, okay, have a certain set of values which they abide by or are comfortable with. So in that sense, brands also need to be a little more conscious of how they engage.
If I can add to what Siddharth said. So in 9 out of 10 cases, every communication regarding a brand collaboration is a two-way journey, right from selecting the right influencer all the way till the content piece going live. It's not that a brand is ghosted along the whole journey. They are aware of which creator they are choosing, what is their public profile, how do they speak, what kind of audience do they cater to, what is the script that they're going to be enacting, what is the final piece of content that is going to go live. Now, my counter question over here becomes that if they are a part of this entire journey, well knowing who they are choosing, what content is being created, and what is going out there, then the consequences of that content piece should also be a shared liability between the brand and the creator, and to some extent the platform as well. Had my content been private content, which I have never shown you before on a public domain or as a brand collaboration, and then it goes downhill, I take the liability. But if there are brand managers on the other end giving approvals on each and every element of this, and if things were to take a U-turn there, it becomes a shared liability, irrespective of whether you're tier 1, tier 3 or 4. That's what I believe.
But how do you look at the blurred lines? For example, if there is a sports personality having an entire team which can comply to what brands are asking for, and to a tier 4 influencer with no brand managers or no team to cater to. So how do you look at the blurring of lines between sports personalities and tier 4
Or big,
influencer?
big celebrities versus can the same rules apply to influencers? Or should they start thinking about their contracts, their dealings with brands more like larger media personalities, whether it's celebrities in sport, entertainment, whatever it is? Because today we are talking about influencers with followings to match celebrities and perhaps more effective in their marketing and their strategies versus a big-time celebrity. Can essentially, I think we'll distill it down to one question. Can the same rules apply to your traditional celebrity as well as influencers today?
So basically, if you look at it from a legal aspect, the law does not distinguish between someone in a tier 1 and someone in a tier 4, irrespective of whether the person in tier 1 has a team of, say, 10 lawyers and the influencer in a tier 4 city has 0 lawyers, in that sense. So it's not about whether there should be some amount of leeway given to the person in tier 4. More than that, it's about them being aware of what they're signing, what they're getting into. Because the reason a brand has gotten in touch with you is because they want to infiltrate, if I may say so, that user base that you have, the outreach that you have over there. So along with it, there's a certain sense of responsibility which goes on the shoulders of the influencer in a tier 4, tier 3, tier 1 city.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to ask this. I want to understand this a little better, and you take whichever part of this question you can possibly take. Let's take some of the recent controversies that happened, right, with India's Got Latent, for example, where you had a guest also come on stage and say certain things that erupted into this massive controversy. Of course, legal, law, everybody was pretty much involved in that controversy. Give me a sense behind the scenes. How would a contract with someone like Samay or his guests, how would that have worked with some of the brands that he was working with? Any insight on that?
So basically, the brands over there had, and forget the morality clause aside.
They knew what they were getting into with the creator like that, right?
Absolutely.
And with the guests he would possibly have on his show and all of that.
Absolutely.
So how would it work in that case?
So in that sense, it was, if you weren't directly affected, you were collateral damage, like the brand. Now, Samay and the others on the show knew exactly what they were getting into, but all their sponsors, all their supporters, everyone had to distance themselves from what had happened. So obviously, contracts were terminated due to morality, due to all the controversy, the fallout, and all of these things. So in that sense, that was actually an awakening of sorts, if I may say, for a lot of production houses, a lot of brands in India, because they realized that, okay, look, this has snowballed into something much larger than us. We don't want to get embroiled in a controversy which was started by someone else, which was started by an influencer who is one of many people who is promoting our goods or our services. So in that sense, it was something which...
A wake-up call.
It was a wake-up call.
And you saw a rise in questions, clauses, more elaborate clauses perhaps. Rohit, your take as someone who works with so many creators, and especially in spaces like gaming, where the scale and reach is absolutely next level.
Right.
And also the proximity of creators and their audiences. And brands want that, because that's the holy grail of engagement, right?
Right.
So when something like that happens in a different space, different sector, but again within the realm of digital entertainment, what was happening? What were the conversations behind the scenes, whether it's with your creators, brands? Was that the wake-up call, as Siddharth put it?
Right. So let me put it this way. Samay has been creating or was creating similar content since a while. Okay. No one seemed to have any objection, whether it was brands, whether it was audience, whether it's what, the internal cast and crew, right? Now, one particular piece of content, things went downhill. And now suddenly it's like, how can we promote a talent like this on social media, right? So it comes down to the fact that as long as you are not in the line of fire, it's fine. Now the brand or the brands that were signing up with him were just looking at the track record that, okay, fine, we know what we are signing up for. We know what kind of content he makes. It generates great engagement, and people love him, right? So we'll go ahead. So I'm sure that the brand of that particular episode also looked at things in a similar manner, right? And the same definition of virality exists, that you could be at your 600th video today and your 42nd video has gone viral out of nowhere because of XYZ reasons, right? So whether or not this video, some other video could have gone viral for good or, for the right or wrong reasons somewhere down the line, right? So this brings me to the point where either you have to be absolutely clean, absolutely within, the guidelines since day one, because your video number 2 or your video number 600, either one of them could, come up on the internet, right? Or if you are maintaining a certain image in front of your audience that, hey, this is how I speak, this is what I do, then everyone associating with you has to sign up with that, knowing that, okay, this is what we are signing up for. Controversy is your currency, right? So now the brand in question who got called out for this particular episode, now they knew what they were signing up for. If not that episode, an episode previous to that could have been highlighted that, hey, something like this happened. And every brand of every other episode would have raised the, concern that how could we let this happen? This was essentially the conversation happening even with live streamers, that we have been live streaming for over 4 years, 8 years now. We have been creating 2-3 hours of content every single day, right? Now, are we going to police and monitor every piece of content we have put out there? Because we never know, tomorrow someone might make a clip out of some old piece of content, put it out there and label me as sexist or anti-national or whatsoever, right?
I have a problem with the color of your T-shirt.
I have a problem with the color of your T-shirt, right? So again, it all comes down to, we all know what we are signing up for. And just, if you were to pinpoint that particular instance that, hey, things didn't go well in this particular instance, you're probably wrong, because you knew that this is the quality of the creator. You knew that this is how the creator presents themselves to the audience.
Yeah, no one's going into this with their eyes wide shut, or, there's definitely a lot more to discuss on this, and I hope we can continue this conversation on different platforms, because again, it's a very, for an ecosystem that's growing the way it is growing, with the kind of people coming into, the creator economy every day, morality clauses, I know, will get tighter, perhaps will retain some of this vagueness for a while, but we're hoping conversations like this can evolve, help evolve the system as well. Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone.
Thank you, Delshad.
It was certainly interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.